Okay, hi Neil. Nice to see you, and good morning.
Morning.
Thanks very much for agreeing to do this for us. I'd like to sort of views on a number of things today, so it's as open and honest as you can be fantastic. Certainly, having followed you on LinkedIn for some time, I can see you have a lot of diverse views and kind of experiences of the marketplace. So it's great to hear from you now. I think probably to introduce our relationship with Blankstone Sington as Contemi has been now since 1994, so a long time. Unfortunately, we're both old enough to remember that time. But yes, it's a great relationship. I think for both parties, and certainly something that we would like to continue for many years to come. So I'm going to dive straight into the questions. I think. First of all, because it's very topical, how has Blankstone Sinton survived and hopefully thrived in these difficult times of a pandemic?
Well, firstly, let's say thanks and hi to you, Kean. Contemi support for Blankstone Sington has been invaluable. As you say, we've known each other a very, very long time. And I would like to think that we have not only developed together, but we will continue to. Your question is a really prevalent one because without yourselves, one has to say that we would have struggled. So the help that you have given us to essentially transform from an office like everyone else that has allowed us to work from home, we set up very, very quickly. Obviously, our systems and ops people, particularly Philip Jarvis and Peter Elwood, played a massive part in that. But effectively, it's been seamless. For us, it was particularly important and also nerve-wracking when we first started working from home, because unusually for a firm of our size, we do have a back office, and therefore you have to trade report and settle. And therefore, that first day, I think there was absolute trepidation when we did move everything across to work from home. But it's worked seamlessly. And not only that, it's allowed for pretty rapid progression, I'd say, on a lot of digitalization. We've obviously improved enormously with you, our portal system that obviously then allows us to contact and speak to clients far better, keep them better informed. So from our point of view, lockdown has accelerated many of the things that probably we could and should have done a little bit sooner. I think the other thing is it's also happened to prove, and I'm sure the FCA are delighted, that all our disaster recovery programs effectively work, because those were all previously predicated on moving from one big building to another. Now we've proven we can do it all very, very securely. I don't believe we've had any outages or any issues with regard to security, which is always one of the biggest things to be concerned about. So yeah, from that point of view, a really positive event has happened out of obviously extremely difficult circumstances.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. And I think from our side, the ease of working with you guys is great. But I think certainly we saw the same thing in terms of proving our business continuity planning. We're not regulated by the FCA, but obviously with our clients being, it pretty much puts the same demands on us as well. And we saw pretty much no downtime in terms of our clients. And bearing in mind, we host your systems. That was quite a good thing for us, certainly something for us to achieve.
So I think the move, obviously, from a more traditional server-based system to the cloud, which we took a long time to get done, and it's not an easy thing to do. But the fact that we managed to get that done by July 2019 has made such a difference. And if anyone else is watching, I would urge you to consider it. You'll save yourselves a lot of time and a lot of headaches, and allow yourselves to do all sorts of different things that otherwise you really would have struggled.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, I guess moving on to more wider things, there's a lot of pessimism around the economy as a whole, obviously for many reasons. But it feels to me as though financial services is in a bit of a bubble. Forgiving the pun on bubbles, really. But but that's that's something of a perception. How do you see the world and the UK bouncing out of this pandemic?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. I feel very, very sorry for those industries who obviously are entirely dependent upon footfall from people, the hospitality industries, the likes of hairdressers. They've had a really, really difficult time. Financial services is different. At the end of the day, we rely on computers and technologies. And what we do is essentially move money around the system in the world. And as long as that core element of the system is up and running, then we can continue. Technology has also allowed us to meet people, do these sorts of things, and accelerate all that kind of thing. So I've had a lot of people say they found it really, really difficult from a business development point of view, for example. But I've never spoken to more people or made a real determined effort actually to speak to more people through these mediums and on the phone, because actually that element of social interaction has been really, really important from a personal point of view, and certainly the recipients have appreciated it. Economically, we are seeing there's no question that there's a two-way pull about to go on. I think the biggest thing that probably occurred was because we had come out of Europe, we were able to make this decision with regard to the vaccine, and therefore we've been able to accelerate our program, which gives us a better opportunity than most domestically. UK-wise, as an economy, we and markets have said this for a long time. We've been way behind. We offer good value. So there's lots to be positive about. The mood music I'm hearing is that, for example, private equity houses, venture capitalists, private investors, they have considerable amounts of money that they want to put into UK PLC. If you look at the mid 250 in terms of the market, that is powered on. The FTSE 100 is not representative of the UK. It's the largest market, but obviously the vast majority of earnings are done overseas. And because sterling has been so weak, that then has translated back into the returns for any overseas investors. We're seeing sterling strengthen. And as much as anything, in part, that's because we know where we're going. Whether we like it or not, whether you agree with the policies that are being adopted, at least we have a sense of direction. We have an ability to go and negotiate some trade agreements, and therefore we are open to the world. I think what's also become really, really apparent, and for me anyway, one of the reasons we've struggled and why our numbers are so high in terms of COVID infections, sadly deaths, is we are a hub. We are the sort of meeting point for East and West, the transition point, so on and so forth. So Europe is caught up in red tape for me, and all the other reasons that people have expressed as to why we wanted to come out in the first place. So I think UK PLC economically has a really strong opportunity. I think the hardest thing is how Mr. Sunak is going to balance the books. We're all sort of waiting here a little bit nervously ahead of the 3rd of March and his budget, which of course has been delayed a number of times already. The gut feel on that is that we will get not that many changes initially, but my personal opinion is that he will signal what he intends to do. He's going to allow, obviously, the economy to reopen. He's going to encourage people to get out, spend, invest, and essentially get the engines fired up. And then he's going to introduce the tax requirements to pay all that he's had to pay. it's quite remarkable to have watched a Tory Chancellor stand up and, for want of a better word, give out this money, the furlough schemes and all the other schemes. That's not Tory policy traditionally, but they stepped up to the plate. I think that what we will see is possibly a bit more of a return to boom bust type economics, and that's the scary bit.
Yeah.
Because if you go back 100 years, what happened post Spanish flu, we had the Roaring Twenties. Well, by coincidence, we're into another 20s. The economy's doing as well as it can, and it's not even got going. The stock market anticipates events, and it's got going. So gut feel says we will see, certainly in the first half of the remainder of this decade, a strong economy. And then you've really probably got to watch out for the danger signals, which are obviously potentially inflation and any downturns around the rest of the world.
I mean, that's pretty much a great insight. And it's good to hear someone being as frank and honest as that, to be honest, because it's a difficult subject and we're all a little bit nervous and there is an unknown to the future. But I like to hear from people like yourself at least seeing a positive future for the economy, and you're right. We have it in our hands to do so. Whether that's UK PLC or just people around the world, we can bounce back if we remain positive and find ways of ways of doing things differently from maybe before. And that kind of leads me on to my next question, really, which is what do you see Blankstone Sinton doing as a key differentiator from your competition to get you ahead of the game, if you like? It sounds like you're ahead of the game, maybe in thinking somewhere, but what do you want to change?
To be fair, we're having to come from a long way behind. It has taken us quite some time to get our head around what's actually gone on in our industry, to be perfectly honest. And probably the biggest difficulty has been perception. At the end of the day, when you badge yourself initially as a stockbroker, there is a certain element of aloofness and untouchability that goes with that tag and title. Actually, the way that the world works these days, it's probably never been more important for retail private clients to have access to the likes of ourselves. We offer a full range of services. So we have bespoke investment management services for those who have larger sums to invest. But we then offer a choice for those who have less. It's called a model portfolio service. I prefer to badge it as something called bespoke light because it is only a step down, but it's there for people who don't have as much money to invest. We have some niche services for people who are looking to protect against, for example, inheritance tax, should that be an issue that they need to consider. We also offer traditional advisory services where people can literally just come and get some advice, simple, relatively straightforward advice. And then we also offer the execution only side. I think our biggest USP, as I think I alluded to earlier, is because we are masters of our own destiny, we actually have full control over the dealing, settlement and custody side as well. So we're not beholden to anyone. Yeah. That also then allows us to not only look at the direct market, but to go and talk to other professionals. And if they want someone who to sort of as an additive to their business, who can power their services, then we like to think, we have what they call a can-do attitude in Liverpool. We're very much a can-do firm. So if we can do it, we will do it. If we can't do it, we'll point you in the right direction as to someone who can. So we like to work in collaboration, and that's I think probably the biggest USP we've got.
It's good to hear. I mean, we our respective teams are going to be on a call fairly soon to talk about how to move some of your services onto a platform with a direct link from our system. So those sort of initiatives lead me on to my next question, really, which is you've already touched on sort of digitalization. What do you see the technology trends for 2021? Contemi put out recently our 12 trends that we see for wealth management in 2021. But I'm wondering what you see the technology world moving towards.
Yeah, I think it's a two-way pull. What we do know is in the IFA advisor market in particular, they like platforms, and I can understand why. It gives them far greater control. So that ability to look after their client money and then move it relatively easily between systems, or at least between fund managers, if not necessarily systems, is probably the thing that they like the most. I think there needs to be a greater collaboration between the platforms. No one likes to lose clients, but sometimes, for whatever reason, clients do decide to go elsewhere. It has to be a far better way of organising the likes of those transfers, which is one of the reasons why we did want to talk to yourselves to see how we look at getting your system into the other platform providers' systems, obviously not only to show our own wares, but to make it easier on these occasions when these transfers do exist. So I think there's a lot of reassessment in terms of investment managers and their performance and what they're actually doing going on at the moment. I think the area where probably the systems are going to be really required and really interesting, there's going to have to be some really good innovation, is the hottest topic that's probably around at the moment, which is on ESG. Quite clearly, the regulation is pushing for all managers to have a full ESG policy, and further than that, to also ESG rate every underlying investment that they make on behalf of the client. So technology's got to play a huge part in determining how that works. So I think for me, they're the two keys that I can see, as well as obviously bringing in greater digitalization, sign up, ease of access for ultimately end user.
That's great. I mean, we've seen our investors and our board have given us a lot of free rein to develop modules in the past and currently. Things around onboarding is just obviously a big challenge for the industry, and corporate actions, which is another one. Very diverse things, but these are areas that we've got investment in, as well as the client portals and investment manager portals, which are all the online presence that we need in this day and age. And I think, interestingly, we've got a very, I guess, socially aware board, which again is an area from an ESG point of view where we will probably see easy investment from them, because they're very strong believers.
I think the whole ESG topic, to be fair, is going to be a really interesting debate, because, you know, what is ESG? One man's view and another man's view are totally different. I think the only thing that, say, we as a firm can do, and this is what we're in the process of at the moment, is all you can do is write your own policy, but set it out really, hopefully clearly and simply, and then obviously your process with regard to underlying investments, and then it's up to investors to judge you on that. At the end of the day, the regulation is driving that we're going to have to ask the question, rather than necessarily the question being asked by the clients. So for me, there's a little bit too much of a political element to it, but you can't beat the system. So, you know, we will be devising a plan centered around whatever the ultimately the politicians decide, and set out our story, and, you know, people will either accept it or debate it or however they feel about it. As long as it's a reasonable and sensible conversation, I think that's all you can ask. And technology's got to play its part in allowing that to happen.
Yeah, cool. I mean, really, to finish off, to talk about our relationship again, we talked about this at the start, and I think going back in time, we've been through many projects together. I remember being at your offices very late into the night on some big upgrades to your systems, but always a very nice place to come. and when we were able to get out and have a drink after the event, it was also fantastic. Those days are probably changing because the days of on-site installations and on-site support are a little bit more challenging right now. But from your viewpoint, how do you see Contemi has helped Blankstone Sington in the past, but importantly as well going forward? Because we're having a lot of discussions at the moment, and it'd be good to hear from you firsthand.
I think ultimately it's there's a like-mindedness about the two firms, and I think the key thing is that the philosophies that underpin both firms are very, very similar. The customers come first. We wouldn't have a business without clients. You wouldn't have a business without the likes of ourselves. And at the end of the day, the best advocate for your business is your client. We are very, very big supporters. You have always, whenever we have needed something, you have made yourselves available. And I think the transformation from face-to-face and spending time in the office to what's happened over this last year, as I say, it's been seamless. In fact, it's probably gone further because I think we've introduced more people to each other's firms because that's been also really, really important. I think from our point of view, probably our people have had the opportunity to explain our business more to you, and therefore there's a greater understanding. But on both sides, there's a willingness, firstly, to learn, and then ultimately, at the end of the day, there has to be a little bit of compromise. And always, at the end of it, is, what's the best outcome for end user, which ultimately is our clients. So it goes down the whole chain. We'd be nothing without you and your systems, and our clients would then, they'd question what the hell are we doing if we didn't have that partnership. So we are delighted. I think the longevity of the partnership speaks volumes. I suspect there aren't that many who have sat with similar over the period of time we have. But there's a reason for it. And the reason is because you're always prepared to listen. We're prepared to work together. We'll look at things together and develop. And we'll be honest with each other. If we don't think something will work, you'll say. If we don't think something works from our end once you've done it, we'll say. And I think probably the next example of that that we're going to look at, and it's really, really likely to be very important, is flexible ISAs. We don't offer them at the moment, but I can see that the flexibility within ISAs, bearing in mind how long they've been around, how big the pots have got, is going to be really, really important to people. And that ability to tap into those sorts of things. We've talked about a cash management solution, which hopefully we're going to be getting off the ground, which we're going to work with yourselves with. So there's a lot of exciting things, I think, going on between the two firms, and we're delighted that it is that way.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Neil. Certainly the flexible ISA side of things we've already got in place, which is great. I think the other area that I'm very excited about is the onboarding side of things. Obviously, one of the areas there is the annual checks with existing clients, as much as the onboarding of new clients, and that's something that we're hoping to work with you guys very soon.
Yeah, I know. We're delighted with that. I think the interesting thing was I read some of the larger firms have actually moved to 2 and 3 year annual reviews. We want to go the other way. If anything, the closer we can be to clients, and obviously the technology allowing that to happen, the better. So long may that continue. Okay,
Neil, well, I'd just like to say thank you very much for your time and your insights. That's been fantastic, and I can only hope that I get to come and visit my favourite city in the world, Liverpool, the city of my father's birth. So it's hopefully there's time to come and see you guys and socialise in the future.
Well, I'm sure that once we all come out of this, there'll be a very warm, it could be slightly messy welcome When you do
Excellent.
eventually come up to Liverpool, we're a warm-hearted city, and we really do look forward to seeing all our friends very, very soon.
Excellent. Okay. Thanks very much for your time, Neil.
Cheers now.